Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Finding the Inner Strength podcast with myself, Cheryl. We are on episode 9, and I've taken you on the last 8 episodes, just a little bit, the beginning of just who I am, my background within my physical journey, mental journey, emotional journey, who I am, what I do. I think I tapped in a little bit with what I do. It's been a while since those episodes. But I feel, and then the last 2 episodes, I got a little bit deep into my perspective on just kind of where the world's going right now. And I'm going to shift to my expertise, my experience with yoga. And it's funny because I've come a really long way, and from where I was back then to where I am now. And now I am 46. I had to think there for a second. Yes, I'm 46. I started practicing yoga, if you remember from the other podcast, when my kids were little, like I would say 2005, 2006 is when I started practicing. So yeah, it's been almost 20 years. Holy moly. So it's funny because I remember, like I said back on, I think it was episode 2, maybe it was episode 1, on how I started just physically doing yoga. And it was quite a journey. It really was. Like I was a young 20-year-old, like low 20 female mom, spouse, and I discovered yoga. And it was funny because I just assumed I would never want to do yoga, as I am quite a chatty person. I have a lot of energy, and I just didn't think it would work for me. And I remember going to these class, actually at the base, military base, army base in Gagetown, New Brunswick, which is actually, it's base Gagetown, CFB Gagetown, but it's in Ormocto. And it was just such an eye-opener onto how my body needed some TLC, because I was always either doing like cardio, fitness classes, CrossFit, and I was never a crazy person with CrossFit. I just really enjoyed the basics of CrossFit. I ran, like I loved running, and that's when I started doing yoga, I noticed things were going on with my back and my IT band, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just start. And I fell in love with it. I was a fantastic instructor. Her name was Gayatri, and I just loved her classes. It was a slow practice, which I was shocked that I enjoyed it. Like I was like, oh, I'm actually moving slow and holding these things, and it just gave me peace. So I think if you've been in that point, or if you ever experienced that, you know what I'm talking about. It's just this discovery of this whole other side of you. And it's funny because I just loved the routine of the class, and I didn't know at the time, but it was Shivananda yoga, which is a classical hatha practice, which I found out a few years after. But what's funny is with these classes, there are challenges, and I am a competitive person. And I really, really wanted to progress through some of these poses, and I wasn't going fast, but it was just kind of like what do you call it? Benchmarks, I guess. Like, there was poses. So you're doing dolphin, but it leads to the headstand, shoulder stand, plow, also crow. Those I would say out of the whole practice to me were the most challenging, but I mean challenging as in it was like, okay, I need to be able to do this. I need to be able to get to this point in my practice to be successful. And I just went with it, and I loved every aspect of that practice. So if you're not familiar with some of these poses I named, they're quite intense poses. Like crow, it's almost like you're looking at someone doing gymnastics or some type of circus show. You have your hands planted down on the mat. You come into a squat, and then the goal, when they show it, it's knees to tricep. But for some of us, that doesn't anatomically work. So mine was more like my inner thigh to my tricep. And you can fall out of these. Your feet come up off the air, you're looking down, and some people crank their head up. And I fell out of it a couple of times. But I was pretty proud of myself that I got to this goal. And the other one that was a work, like a challenge to get to, was headstand. What I liked about the Shivananda practice was and the instructor. She showed you progression. You learned progression on how to get into it. And she actually did not want people just trying to go into it. So she was actually a quite mindful, safe instructor. Now, when it came to the shoulder stand and the plow, I'm a very, there's some things I'm just was able to do, like to push myself, and I just wanted to look like what she was doing, the instructor. And shoulder stand, you're on your back, and then you bring your legs up, and your buttocks and your torso, your lower back, mid back come up off of the mat, and you're literally balancing on your shoulders and technically the back of your neck and your skull. And I loved it because I used to do that stuff when I was little, and I was like, oh, look at me, I can do all this stuff. And then from the shoulder stand, you go into the plow. So the plow, your legs come so right now you're in shoulder stand, legs are up to the sky. And then you bring both legs down behind you. So your toes are touching the ground behind you. And I loved doing it. It just felt like I was getting a good, fantastic stretch. I was like, look at me, I'm a pro. And it's because I was and am a competitive person. I have that in my personality. And I didn't realize at that point that I could ask questions or be wondering, like, what's the purpose of this? Why are we told to do these things? You just take the instructor's word. You go to a drop-in yoga class and you just do it. And it felt good. It did. There were some things like when you think about it, these things can be quite dangerous on the spine, on the body. And if you're not doing them safely, or knowing why you're doing it, there's a problem there, right? So fast forward from New Brunswick, we get posted back to Alberta. And I was trying to find a place to practice yoga. And it was funny because my experience in New Brunswick was always the same style. I didn't realize there was different styles of yoga. I just kind of like, I'll go to a class and see, I didn't just assumed it would all kind of be the same. So found a place in Alberta and went, and always looking with the qualifications of the instructors, but not really thinking a lot about it, right? And I just basically went to a studio and when we first moved back to Alberta. And to go back a bit, before we moved back to Alberta, I had an injury in New Brunswick, and it had to do with our going away party, and it was a great going away party, and I had a little bit too many fuzzy peach martinis. Just a few too many. And then when you do that and you're with a group of adults and you all think it's a great idea to play Spotlight, like a group of adults and some children playing Spotlight on someone's acreage. And if you don't know what it is, look it up. It's quite hilarious. But it brought me back to my childhood. But not only did it bring me back to my childhood, I was also intoxicated. And it was my turn to I was it, I guess is what it is. Is that what yeah. So anyways, while I'm playing this, okay, so Spotlight, as you might not know, is in the dark. And I decided it was a great idea to wear Birkenstocks doing this. So I'm walking around trying to find people and I'm trying to be all stealthy and, of course, find a divot into the ground. Well, I didn't find it. It found me. And my foot went in and I felt it snap and I crumpled to the ground. And it was so total stupidity, right? But also competitive. So I remember my son and one of our friends' sons found me, and they're like, my son's like, "Mom, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Need help, hurts," is all I said. They carried me to the front step of this house, and one of my friends who owned the house, actually, she's a nurse, and she's like, "Oh, no, you're not doing anything else." I'm like, "No, I got to finish," because I wanted to keep playing the game. They're like, "No, you need to go home." So fast forward to the next day, my ankle is like 3 times the size of what it should be. It's purple and blue and whatever colors you can think of. End up going to the hospital. They think they did an x-ray, like, "Oh, you just sprained your ankle. So just walk on it." Well, I can tell you, I tried to have crutches. We were moving, as I said, it was a going away party. So we moved to Alberta. My ankle's still not good. And we end up settling into Alberta, and ankle's not getting better. I go find a doctor, get an MRI, and I have 3 torn ligaments in that ankle and foot. And this is 3 months later, right? And so I'm slowly getting back into things. I have the diagnosis of what's going on with my ankle, but already 3 months of scar tissue building, no physical therapy or anything like that. And so then I go and I'm still working out because I'm going to get stronger, and I'm doing CrossFit. But what happens when you have a weak side of your body? You compensate on the other. So then I was doing a shoulder press, and because of my ankle, I was putting more weight bearing on the other side, the right side, and I tweaked my back. So I was laid up for a little bit. It wasn't terrible, but it was not good. So then I can't remember how soon after it was, but I was like, "Oh, I really want to do yoga. I want to find a good yoga place." And I went to a studio and with a friend, I went into, I think it was Downward Dog, and my back just cranked up. Like it was like, and I'm like, "Oh." And the instructor could tell that I was uncomfortable. And so she quietly came around and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Well, my back kind of hurts." So she got me to sit with like my legs in front of me, got me a bolster, and told me to put the bolster across my lap. And so she's still instructing everybody else, and she's saying to me, "Okay, now lean forward, come into forward fold." So I fold forward, and she puts her hands on my back, and she pushes. And to me, okay, you're a registered teacher. You have all this training. And I just trusted her, which is not a bad thing. But on the other hand, I just assumed she knew what she was doing. I walked out of that class and an upside down letter L. And I couldn't stand straight. I had to get into my vehicle, which was agonizing, drive home, and then proceed to lay on the couch. And that was my first eye-opener with teachers, and I'm a teacher. I'm a yoga teacher, and I realized, wait a second. And it seems like a no-brainer, but a lot of people that go to our classes, come to our yoga classes, assume because we are certified yoga teachers, instructors, therapists, we are doctors. Now, unless one of these that I just listed is an individual that actually is a doctor, like that they practice medicine, or they're a chiropractor, kinesiologist, physiotherapist, we are not doctors. So at that time, I'm not a yoga teacher back then. And I was in so much pain. And so that was my first experience of, I need to be more aware of what's happening, why I'm doing things. So this is even before I take training. Then I go to Yellowknife. And before we moved to Yellowknife, I found another yoga studio which was lovely. And I just let them know I don't like adjustments. I personally am completely against adjustments. And it's because I had that episode at this point. Like, don't touch me. Please don't touch me. Because it's funny, if you know me and you see me, people think I'm physically fit and there's nothing wrong. And so if I was going to let people adjust me, they couldn't tell by just looking at me what's going on. I also knew, okay, these people aren't doctors. Why are they touching me? So then we go to Yellowknife. We moved to Yellowknife and found a yoga. I don't know if I started going to yoga studio at that point. I don't think I did, but I did my training. I was very blessed to have an amazing lady, Sylvie Boucher, and we just happened to meet, and she just happened to be holding a teacher's training, yoga teacher training in Yellowknife, and it was an amazing, amazing experience, and just the way everything came to be, because it was kind of funny. I just signed up. I liked her. I was like, I didn't ask any questions. I'm just going to do it, get my 200 hours, and it all came back to Shivananda yoga. And she taught in such a elegant, knowledgeable approach to people's bodies. And I just respect her so much for her instructing and guidance. From there, I just started teaching, and I was doing more training, getting more certifications, doing whatever I could to my body, not just with yoga, but other physical, like running, working out, fitness classes. But I really geared more towards yoga and doing things that I thought were safe for my body, just myself. Like, okay, here's a pose. There's got to be a purpose to this pose. They're telling us to do it. And then had some of the certifications I was doing during COVID. I have these amazing people that I just ended up finding. They had Ayurvedic background, or one of them did, and I just love their realism, their honesty on their approach to being a yoga teacher. Their approach and knowledge, or their point of view on different styles of yoga. And I embraced it because it was the first time in any type of environment, yoga environment, I could ask questions and I got realistic answers. And also answers that support, like we're basically saying, this is our opinion, but basically investigate it, see what you find out. And I really appreciated it. And they were fantastic instructors, V and Tim. And they also taught in a way that I learned a lot about myself and what was going on with me mentally and emotionally, not physically at that point, just mentally and emotionally. So then the physical aspect came in when we dived into our doshas and stuff. So that's a whole other story. So after I finished training with V and Tim, I've had over like 900 hours in certifications. And then we get posted, or we decide to move back to Alberta. And in Alberta, I just started having pain, and not knowing how to describe it, and not knowing why it was happening. And like I said in the other episode, fast forward, find out I have arthritis and degenerative disc disease and erythrolysis. And some of these things have been caused from the strain I was doing to my body and not doing it safely. And now I'm on this journey for myself, but wanting to share it with people, because it is so hard to be mid-40s, and I know some of you are younger, some of you are older, and it could be hard at any age, but to be consistently in uncomfortable pain, but looking like I should be fine. And I've decided that this is one of my callings, is sharing what I'm going through, what I can do for myself, and also share it with all of you. So even if you don't have an injury or chronic pain, you have knowledge to start learning how to work your body in a safe, mindful, conscious way. I'm not saying don't go on an adventure. I'm not saying not to push yourself. I'm saying ask questions. Because if you don't ask questions and you just do something because someone's telling you to do it, how is that empowering you on knowing what is going to help you physically and mentally? And I just want to share this and be a guide for people, not a doctor, a guide on what can help you as an individual. What is out there for you? You are your own advocate. And I had to advocate for myself, because when I went to the doctor, I was just looked at as someone that's healthy. Oh, she practices yoga, she does this. And if I don't say anything and push for things, nothing gets looked at. And it's so infuriating, because I am not what's the word I'm looking for? Hypochondriac? I'm not. Is that the right word? If it's not, please let me know. I don't overanalyze. I don't stress out about these things. I feel something and I want to know why. So I encourage you to advocate for yourself. Ask the questions. Ask me questions when it comes to yoga. I might not have all the answers, but I might have a way of directing you to find that information. So through the years, I have been certified in Hatha, Yin, Kids Yoga, Vinyasa, Yoga Nidra, have some restorative, and now somatics. And if I knew when I was in my early 20s, then, and we all say it when we get older, what I know now, I think the number one baseline for any type of physical movement is somatics. Even if you don't have chronic pain, I think knowing your body And understanding it is a piece of the puzzle that is missing for a lot of us. And I am enjoying my journey with getting my certifications in gentle somatic yoga. And I learned about Hatha somatics from my second osteopath, in Alberta. And man, learning, it's amazing when you meet people, the things that you learn that you weren't expecting to come into your life. And I'm going to be sharing now the next few episodes, the pros and cons, I think, of different practices of yoga. My opinion, I know some people will not agree with me, but that's okay. It's a point of view. Doesn't mean other people's point of views are not valid. It just means education is important, and we all have different experiences. And most people that take my classes know when you come to my class, I am fully opened to people asking questions, fully opened to making people understand why I'm asking them to do what the pose I'm putting them in. And they also know I do not put them into something or ask them to go into a pose that does not feel safe for them. To me, that is not safe for a yoga teacher to do. Also, I refuse to put my hands onto anybody to adjust their body. And my reason for that is, one, physical. So look at me. I would have been 24, 25 when that happened to me in that yoga studio years ago. But I also didn't understand at that time that I should have said no. And then two, if someone has an emotional or mental trauma and you're going to put your hands on them, to me, that's crossing a line. Also, classes that give you cards to turn over to say yes or no for adjustments, the majority of students will have that card faced for adjustments because they don't know any different. So I think as teachers, we need to take that into consideration and be extremely mindful on what we think we can do. And just one more thing to tap into this. You go to a drop-in class for yoga. Even if your instructor is a doctor, kinesiologist, physiotherapist, chiropractor, when you go into a drop-in class, do you sit down with that instructor for that 10-minute consultation like you would going to a doctor's office or a chiropractor, physiotherapist, massage therapist, kinesiologist? Do you sit down with that instructor before class starts and go through a file to say what's going on with you? There's food for thought. Usually you go to a drop-in class, you sign a waiver, and then you go in and you just assume that you are in a space where whoever is leading that class knows your body inside and out. I'm very passionate about this, and because of my own experiences and also other students and friends that have told me their experiences. So a little bit serious, but I just wanted to plug that in there before ending this episode. And for the next episode, for the next few episodes, I'll be tapping in to the styles that I teach, maybe a couple other ones with a little bit of background of what I understand of them and my point of view. So there you go, just the start of my yoga journey, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you again for joining me. If it's the first time joining me on this episode 9, go back and you can listen to the first 8 episodes and learn a little bit more about me, Cheryl. You can find me at www.yogainSmallSpaces.com or on Facebook, Yoga in Small Spaces with Cheryl, and also on Instagram, Yoga in Small Spaces with Cheryl. Have a fantastic day, fantastic week, fantastic month. And until next time, be kind and to yourself and others. Thank you.